Russia is making ties with Pakistan and China. Does this mean that if India goes to war with Pakistan or China, Russia will remain neutral, just like India stayed neutral in the Ukraine Russia war? Look, has India stayed neutral in the Ukraine Russia war? Uh, you can say we are neutral in this matter. Our prime minister has even visited Kiev, whatever the spelling is of that city. And he has even embraced Mr. Zelensky and patted his back and listened to him with a very grave expression on his face, etc. We've done that. But we, look, to be very frank, we have, you could say, we have been very pro India in the sense that this war has kind of benefited us, and why should it not? So we have been purchasing very large quantities of oil from Russia at reasonably discounted rates, and we have been refining that oil and then selling it to the Europeans at a higher rate. So it's kind of benefited us, not in a small way. And we have refused to let the Western sanctions and the Western war against Russia change our relationship with Russia. So we have maintained a very warm and friendly relationship with Russia despite this war going on. So that is not entirely neutral. That is, you could say, slightly warm towards Russia. Okay. Now, coming back to the question, Russia is making ties with Pakistan and China. Look, every nation looks out for its interest. Russia currently has a certain amount of dependency on China. China is very important for Russia right now, way more important than India. China is roughly 4 times larger as an economy compared to India, roughly, give or take. Okay, don't nitpick again, but you get the point, right? You get the point. So China is really important for Russia, and China, until very recently, had a very antagonistic approach towards India, very hostile approach towards India, right? Our leaders did not even speak for 5 years to each other, that sort of thing. So the Chinese would have encouraged the Russians to you know open some kind of relationship with Pakistan. And Russia and Pakistan have been dallying with each other for quite some time. Um, there was this a series of exercises that happened every year. Druzhba exercises. Druzhba means friendship in Russian. So Druzhba exercises once a year between Pakistan and the Pakistani military and the Russian military. Once a year would be held from 2015, 2016 onwards until 2021, if I'm not mistaken. You can look up the years and there will be plus or minus somewhere here or there. But every year there was there was a Druzhba exercise between the two militaries. It would be 1 year, it would be in Russia, 1 year in Pakistan, alternating, right? That sort of thing. And the Russians even sold 2 or 3 military helicopters to the Pakistanis and so on. So there was some kind of thing already going on. But the Druzhba exercises have stopped. They stopped from 22 onwards because India once again became very important for Russia. India is the counterbalance to China, definitely very much, right? So I don't think the Russians will prioritize Pakistan over India ever. If India goes to war with Pakistan, I don't think Russia needs to come to India's rescue. If there's a war with Pakistan, Russia will technically remain neutral. They'll they'll be eating popcorn and watching the annihilation of Pakistan. Okay, I'm not trying to be flippant or anything, but that's exactly what will happen if there's a war between India and Pakistan. It'll be the last war Pakistan ever fights. When it comes to a war, potential war between India and China, Russia will be in a very tough position. If India goes to war with Pakistan, Russia doesn't have to do a thing. India will deal with Pakistan. India and China is a whole different ball game, and Russia will be in a very difficult position if that happens. Thankfully, India and China seem to be on a better track now. There is less likelihood of a war between India and China. But in the hypothetical, fictitious scenario that there is a war between India and China, what does Russia do? Mr. Putin will do his best to stay neutral. And actually, he will stay neutral, no matter how much pressure the Chinese put on him. He will not go against India. I firmly believe that Putin will not do a thing that will harm India's interests. So, we know The Russians have been selling arms and ammunition to both countries, India and China both. They have sold the S-400 system to China as well as India, very nicely balancing things out. Yes. Um, so if there's a war between India and China, Russia will probably, most likely, stay neutral, and Putin will do his best to end the war if there's a war that happens. And I am pretty certain that whatever rapprochement we are seeing between India and China, I am pretty certain that Mr. Putin, has played a big role in that, because it is in Russia's interests to have the emergence of a RIC coalition, Russia, India, China. It is in all three nations' interests to have a coalition like RIC emerging. RIC is the core group of BRICS, isn't it? And if the three nations can find a way to work together and cooperate, then they can truly create an alternative to the existing Western dominated world order, which hurts every other nation, including these three. So I'm pretty certain that Putin has played a big role in whatever improvement we have witnessed in recent months in the relationship between India and China. And if a war happens, he will do his best to end the war and to act as a mediator. That's how I see it going.